The Associated Press is now reporting that the White House offered a new fiscal cliff proposal to the House GOP since their meeting Sunday. And just this afternoon, Speaker's office countered. Speaker Boehner has refused to comment, but the Speaker himself, well, he had an early Christmas greeting for the White House today from the floor.
We know that the President wants more stimulus spending and an increase in the debt limit without any cuts or reforms. That's not fixing our problem. Frankly, it's making it worse.
Congressman Joe Courtney is a Democrat from Connecticut, and he joins us in the studio. Welcome, sir. It's great to have you. Do you have any idea what the fresh deal may be?
No. I mean, the transparency in this process has been zero.
Yes.
And you know, to some degree, I think people understand that private conversation is good, but this is moving at an incredible snail's pace, given the fact that at some point the public does need to know what's going on, and certainly the caucuses that vote on
Speaker Boehner's caucus needs to know.
Absolutely.
I mean, do you think, for example, that the President may have given somewhere, perhaps in relation to, I don't know, qualifying age for entitlements or some other area that they may be seeking some compromise on?
I mean, it's possible. Personally, I think that's a really mistaken policy. But having said that, I mean, I think listening to Speaker Boehner's comments, he forgets the fact that $1 trillion of cuts was implemented through the Budget Control Act when it was passed in August of last year. And if you look at the Affordable Care Act, which they were screaming about cutting Medicare just a few weeks ago,
yes.
In fact, it has moderated the rate of growth to a historic low level. So the fact is that this administration has clean hands in terms of on the spending side. And you know, what we've got to make sure is we have to balance the needs of a still weak economy.
Indeed. Stay there, Congressman, because our White House correspondent Kristen Welker is joining us now from the White House. Kristen, are you able to flesh out some of the details that's being reported by the Associated Press, amongst others?
Well, both sides are being fairly tight-lipped right now, Martin, but here's what I can tell you. My Republican sources on the Hill confirm that House Speaker John Boehner has presented the White House with a counteroffer to an offer that he apparently presented to House Speaker John Boehner on Sunday. What are the details of that offer? They are not saying, except to say it includes new revenues and entitlement reforms. They're also still calling on the President to release more specifics about what he would do to reform entitlements. The White House has spent much of the day pushing back against that, saying, look at our proposal from back in 2011 for deficit reduction. The two sides are meeting, though, Martin. As you know, the President and House Speaker John Boehner met on Sunday, and really, with the exception of this nugget that we're getting right now, they're really not telling us a whole lot. One person here in the White House tells me there's a reason for that. They're trying not to release too many details, so some of this negotiation can go on behind closed doors so that they can make progress on this. Senior administration official noting to me that if this ripens too soon, it could spoil, essentially meaning that the political pressure on this situation could derail a deal. Much is revealed before we get closer to that deadline. But again, what I can confirm is that according to my Republican sources on the Hill, House Speaker John Boehner has presented the White House with a counteroffer to apparently a new proposal that was delivered to them on Sunday. Martin.
Congressman, you were saying earlier that you are very concerned now about the time that we have left. Christine Lagarde of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, has already said this would be a catastrophe for the global economy if we slip over. Do we have enough time for a deal to be done? Because according to Kristen, it sounds as if they're getting closer.
It is, and again, I certainly think that, I mean, logistically, yeah, you could schedule a vote and pass it and send it to the President in record time. But as you recall, when TARP was voted on that last time when the whole eyes of the world were watching the Congress, I mean, the fact is the first vote capsized because I think, frankly, people took it too much for granted that the chamber was just going to swallow, you know, what was sort of hashed out behind closed doors in too tight a process. So again, I recognize the need to have, you know, honest communication, and sometimes it has to be done behind closed doors. But the fact is that, you know, the clock is getting very tight in terms of, in my opinion, something this big.
Your opinion's worthwhile because you know how Congress works, sir. So going back to you for a moment, Kristen, you just said that Speaker Boehner came back with some additional revenues. But here's the question, Kristen. Did you mean by that a possible tax rate increase?
No, to be clear, I absolutely did not. They are not letting us know specifically what the revenues, what the entitlement reforms will look like. I've been trying to get specifics, and I imagine that hopefully we will over the next several hours or so. But again, they're being very tight-lipped about what is actually in this deal, except to say that it does include those components. You know, President Obama was initially asking for about twice the amount in new revenues that House Speaker John Boehner was saying that he could deliver. The House Speaker getting some pushback from members of his own caucus for offering up about $800 billion in new revenues. Of course, he wanted to achieve that by rolling back tax breaks. President Obama wants rates to go up on the wealthiest Americans. There is no sign that that impasse has been broken at this point. This is still one of the big issues that likely needs to be worked out. But again, what we do have, it seems at this point, at this hour, is a proposal and a counter-proposal coming from the Hill. Martin.
Thank you, Kristen. Congressman Courtney, finally and briefly, if I can put this to you, is it possible that they're getting closer, but actually they don't want to reveal that they've reached a closer agreement because it will give too much time for bloodletting post an agreement?
It's possible because, again, just remember, people are just flying into town tonight, and so the time to present it is really now. But this week we better start seeing some real movement.
Congressman Joe Courtney, I'm
Thanks.
sorry, but thank you, sir, so much. And NBC's Kristen Welker, thank you.